Hey, so yesterday we talked about the Californios. The Californios were a group that met not such a great end because of different people that were moving on to their lands and kind of taking it from them. One of those groups we're going to be talking about today called the 49ers. Now, we are not talking about my favorite football team, the San Francisco 49ers. However, they did get their name from this group of people. When we're talking about the 49ers, the way they got their name was from the year that they went west trying to strike it rich, 1849. Right, gold was actually first found in 1848 by a man named James Marshall, who we'll read about later. But today, what I want you looking for are what are some of the tools that the 49ers used when they were trying to dig up gold. And if you watch any of the mining shows like Gold Rush on television, you probably have heard of some of these tools before. And then the second thing I'm going to have you look for is just what are some things that maybe interest you or surprise you that you read and find out about miners today. So without further ado, let's look at the picture at the bottom first. That is like a mining camp. It's called Angels Camp in California. There were lots of those types of camps set up. All right. And in the reading, it says, in January 1848, gold was discovered near California's Sierra Nevada mountain range. By 1849, news of the discovery had spread, and 49ers were leaving their jobs behind to race to the gold fields. This marked the beginning of the gold rush. 49ers hoped to get wealthy quickly or strike it rich. Some of them were African Americans. Some of these African Americans were slaves, but others were free. They came to California in hopes of finding riches. Early on, miners had lots of success finding gold in streams and rivers. Sometimes they used knives and spoons to scrape gold from the river rocks. Miners also learned to pan for gold, which started by scooping up dirt from the riverbed. Then miners would swish the pan around in the river until the lighter materials washed away. Hopefully heavy gold would be left in the pan. To get more gold, some miners used a cradle or a wooden box on rockers. They shoveled the riverbed dirt into the cradle, then poured water over it and rocked the cradle to wash away the lighter material. On the next page, at the top, it says, many 49ers ended up working in groups to make the process of mining go quicker. They put several boxes together to make a long, narrow box called a sluice. Men on both sides could shovel dirt into the sluice while water ran steadily through it. The water washed away the lighter particles and the gold remained. And you can see a picture above that paragraph that shows men working at the sluice, trying to get gold separated from the dirt. Back in the second paragraph, it says, miners had a hard and lonely life in tents and shacks far away from their families. In the early days of the gold rush, there were few women in the mining towns and camps. Storekeepers recognized the opportunity that the gold rush had provided them, and most made more money than the average miner. They could sell food, tools, and supplies at high prices since there were no other shops. Miners tried to avoid spending all their money on food and instead ate cheaply. There was no government in the gold fields, so miners elected their own officials. They also created rules to protect their belongings and claims. Arguments over claim boundaries were often settled with guns, and thieves within the camps were likely to be hanged. As more and more gold was discovered, miners began to find it harder to find. The gold rush did make some people wealthy, but most 49ers went home no richer than before. Rather than making the difficult journey home, some stayed in California and started businesses and farms. So something that may surprise you is that life didn't turn out all sunshine and roses for the miners. Most of them did not strike it rich. Most of them either ended up being the same as far as money as before, or actually poor because they spent all their money on trying to go strike it rich. Something in the reading that they mention is how the store owners in the mining towns would mark the prices of things up because they knew the miners had to have them and they didn't have anywhere else to go to get them. And so the store owners actually made more money a lot of times than the miners because they were basically price gouging. And so a good current event example of that was this spring when everybody was trying to buy toilet paper and no one could find it. And so anytime I could find toilet paper somewhere, I was trying to buy it. And I was paying a lot more for toilet paper than I have in the past, just because that's kind of got to be something you have, right? And so that's the same thing that happened with the mining towns. Miners needed these foods to survive and supplies to be able to mine. And so they were paying more money for them than they were worth, and the store owners were making a fortune off of them. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the next slide and fill in these boxes. All right. The first boxes are writing 3 tools that 49ers use. So just find the tools in the reading, some of the tools that they used. The second thing is I would like you to write interesting things that you found out about life in a mining camp, maybe things that surprised you or things you hadn't heard of before. All right, so those are your choice of 2 things that you learned in the reading that maybe were interesting to you or surprising. All right, in our next lesson, we're going to find out specifically about James Marshall, who was the guy who was first to find gold. So stay tuned for that.